Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for joining me for another episode of this. Today, we are going to be making cold brew. So cold brew is genuinely one of my all-time favorite drinks. If you live in Salt Lake City and you ever run into me, odds are you're probably going to run into me at Liberty Park sitting underneath a tree with a book and a glass of cold brew. I feel like I drink a glass or two of this just about every day, so I almost always have some at hand. It's so easy to make, and this isn't the method I usually use to make it, but following up with some of the things we learned in episode 1, we are going to make this in our French press. It's super simple. It's basically the same thing, just with one fewer steps. So first of all, I have removed the plunger from my French press, just for now. We're going to reattach it later, but right now we're going to leave it in the fridge for quite a while, so it makes it kind of awkward if you've got the plunger sticking up there. I've left it on before when I've made it in the French press, and it's accidentally gotten knocked over and knocked my cold brew all over the place. So we're just going to take it off for now. You can leave it on if you want. I'm rambling. I'm sorry. So this is everything we're going to need. We're just going to need some water, our French press, and our coffee. For this, I would really strongly recommend some coarser grind coffee. Not that it's really going to affect the taste, just with finer ground coffee, especially in cold brew and with the quantities we're going to be doing it in, you're really going to end up with a lot of grounds if you use fine ground coffee, and that generally includes most store-bought pre-ground coffee. So I would really recommend, if you're going to do it with this method, to grind your coffee yourself, or a lot of grocery stores will grind the coffee for you. Or if you just want to use your fine ground coffee, that's totally fine. Just get some coffee filters, and before you pour it into your glass at the end of this, just strain it through a coffee filter and it'll work great. All right, so we're not really going to mess around with measurements. This is something that I don't really mess with ratios too strongly. What I like to do is I'm going to pour just about enough coffee to cover the bottom and go up about a centimeter. I don't know what measurement that would be. I'd say in this, that is probably a fifth of a cup, ? But again, we're not really going to mess around with measurements. We're just going to play it by ear, see how it goes. If at the end, if it's under extracted, then can let it sit for a little bit longer. And if it's over extracted, we can water it down just a little bit. Now, that's not going to work if you let it really extremely under extract or over extract, but no, it's a good fix within a margin of error, you know? So once we've got our coffee poured in, we're going to pour the water on top and give it a really good stir. We really want to make sure that all of those grounds are nice and wet. And now once that's done, we're going to put our lid back on and we're going to just chuck it in the fridge and forget about it for a little bit. So we're going to let it sit overnight, at least 12 hours. What the big difference between cold brew and iced coffee is brewed hot and then poured over ice, whereas cold brew is, like the name suggests, it's brewed cold. So it really needs a lot more time to steep those grounds and really extract that flavor. And so what that does, what the main difference is taste-wise, is that's going to reduce acidity, and in my opinion, it makes it kind of smoother, and I just like the taste a little bit better. Hot coffee poured over ice is going to be super watered down too, so you're going to lose a lot of that great coffee flavor. So with cold brew, we're going to just stick it in there and forget about it. Now, I know what you're thinking, June, this video is only 4 minutes. I could figure this out on my own. So I'm also going to show you how to make a great simple syrup. To be honest, I don't usually have my coffee with simple syrup. I'm pretty boring. I just like my cold brew with a little bit of milk, or half and half, or most of the time coconut milk. But this is really great. I do this on occasion, and I always have some of the simple syrup handy just when I'm feeling like it, you know? So we're going to chuck a cup and a bit of sugar. This is another thing that I'm not really going to worry about ratios. It's really hard to goof up a simple syrup. So we're going to chuck a cup and a smidge of sugar into a pan, and then put about a cup of water on top of that. Now, you could stop right here, and that's fantastic. With cold brew, it's kind of hard to stir in sugar, so I'd really recommend using a simple syrup rather than just granulated sugar, because sugar in something cold, it makes it hard to kind of dissolve and really get incorporated into the drink. But with this, it's going to make it super easy to incorporate that into the cold brew. But I want mine to be a little bit more flavorful, so I'm going to chuck a cinnamon stick in there and about a tablespoon of vanilla. You can really use any spices you want in this. Nutmeg's great. You can make some lavender syrup. Lavender is fantastic. Rosehip syrup is phenomenal. Hell, put some paprika in there if you really want. You do you. Just experiment. Find out what works, what you like. And then we're going to put it on like medium-high heat and get it really good stirred up. And then we're just gonna wait a little bit. I let mine sit for about 5 minutes, stirring occasionally. You really want that to become clear. You want to make sure that all of that sugar gets dissolved and bring it up to like just a bit of a boil. Like let it boil for a moment. You don't want it to get too hot, because if it gets too hot, you're going to start getting some like really strong crystallization and it's going to turn into hard candy, which there's nothing wrong with that. I love making hard candy, but that's kind of hard in coffee. And so once you've let that all dissolve, you're set. We're going to take that, put it into the hipsteriest container you can find, and then we're going to chuck that in the fridge with our cold brew. You want to make sure that it's really cooled down. I guess you could serve it warm, but I don't know. You gotta wait for the cold brew anyway. Might as well let this syrup cool down as well. All right, so it's the next day. You can tell it's the next day because I'm wearing a different shirt but the same pants. Just kidding, it's actually the same day. This is just a different batch of cold brew I made. We're going to pour a little bit into our glass and give it a good taste. Now this is where you're going to either let it sit a little bit longer or you're going to water it down a little bit. Luckily for me, this is perfect. It's the perfect extraction, but I would really recommend, even if it tastes good in the moment, still try experimenting, because you don't know if something's going to taste better, you know? But I'm going to pour a little bit more into my glass and add a little bit of simple syrup. And I forgot my milk in the fridge, so I'll be right back. And there you go. Super simple. I usually have about 4 to 5 glasses worth sitting in my fridge at any time. This stuff will keep for a little bit in your fridge. Really, it's another thing you just gotta keep your eye on. It can get moldy if you let it sit too long, but if you're like me, it's not gonna last that long. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. This was kind of a quick video, though now that I look at the timer, it's almost exactly the same length as the other one. So yeah, thanks, and hopefully next week we are going to get into some espresso stuff. But at the same time, I am not super hopeful. Somebody asked me to do some AeroPress stuff. I've never goofed around with an AeroPress, so maybe I'll order one and we'll see what it's like together. Okay, have a great day. Bye.